going to show you how to do a cute, easy to accomplish bottle tree plate. Okay, we'll show this to you a little bit closer. This is really easy to do. It's a little bit of a Zen type feeling project because it's easy to work on and you can just get a little bit lost in the project, okay? So what we're going to use is, I'm using just a coupe salad plate right now. I'm using nothing but designer liners to draw out my design. Then we're going to need a clear glaze over the front so you can dip this if that's your manner of clear glazing. And you can see I painted the back rather sloppily, but this is my favorite. Cantaloupe if it is in stroke and coat, and I believe it's tangerine if you have it in foundations. That's my favorite color. You can use any color you want on the back. So first of all, I am using designer liner on all of these projects because I like the fact that it has a little tip. It's easy to control. It doesn't spread when I draw it out. Now, if you do use designer liner, to make this a dinnerware safe plate, it does require a clear glaze over it, which is no big deal. So because I am putting a clear glaze over it, I didn't paint the background with anything on here. I worked directly on bisque so that when I'm pulling my designer liner on here, there isn't any color in the back that is going to clog up my nib, okay? Now you do have their other options though. I could have used stroke and coat in a little bottle. And if you go to Mayco's website, under Tools, Creative Tools, and then Accessories, you'll see here that you can buy the bottles and the tips separately and these little caps, okay? So you could put these stroke and coat in these bottles, use the little tip, and create the same lines. And then you could skip the dip if you base coat with foundation and then use stroke and coat. So it's your choice. Another option is, a lot of times I save my stroke and coat bottle, or I use this bottle, just buy this little cap and the nibs, and you can just use your stroke and coat bottle instead of buying extra bottles. It's all how you want to do it. But wanted to make you aware you have two options. Today's option is with designer liner though. Now, I did divide my plate up into 8 even sections. If you go on the website and Google divide circle into 8 even sections or 5 even sections, you can print off a little pattern. This one is 8, and I think this is a little busy, so if I was going to do it again, I might divide it into 4 even sections and then maybe just put some little ones in between, have 4 large and a couple of small in between. It's totally up to you, artist choice. But I wanted to let you know that this is easy to find on the website or in the internet, and just make sure that you're saying divide circle into however many equal parts that you want. Now you can transfer it on a couple of ways. You can use Mayco's AC 230 clay carbon paper, lay it down, trace it on, and you have some lines. You can also kind of just eyeball it, spitball it if you want to call it that, with a ruler. And you can see the pencil lines. Now look here, I got a little wonky. The key is all of your lines should intersect right here in this circle. So I'm going to ignore these pencil lines that are not intersecting with circle, because then I know that I have these in even sections. If you have a new bottle of designer liner, you are going to have to prep it and get it ready for yourself. And if you would just take a minute to read these directions, there's very good tips on here that is going to help you make this easy for yourself and or your customers, okay? Please give it a read. I like to keep my little bags as well. So, when you receive in a new bottle, it's going to have the little cap on it. It's not going to have the metal tip, because this cap has not been opened up. So what you're going to want to do is open this up. You can get a bamboo skewer. Now this size is a little on the large size, but for demonstration purposes, if you thread it through this way from the inside out, that's going to push all of that plastic back and it's not going to stick on you. And then you can also use a toothpick to open it up. I kind of keep a couple of them handy. Like I said, this skewer is a little bit larger than I normally use. I must have had a very meaty project that I was going to work on. And then what you do is you take the little metal tip that comes in your little bag and you just screw it on there, okay? Then you put this on here. Whenever you're not using your designer liner, we recommend that you put the pin in the little metal tip, because when that glaze dries in there, because of the frit and everything, it does get a little tricky to clean. This is also nice where if you have some empty bottles and those little plastic tips, keep water in it, and then you can put, and I'll show you, because you can buy the plastic tips. Oh, not the same size. All right, so you can buy the plastic tips, put this on there, squeeze water through, and it cleans it out. And just for visual sake, so what I'm saying is buy these tips, put it on an empty bottle that you have water in it, and then flush it through so it cleans out the metal nib. So I try to store it like this with a clean little metal tip. But if you want to, you can also store it like this. There's a pin in your bag. You're going to poke it through to make a flag. Yes, it does rhyme. All right, so then what I like to always make sure that I do is I try to make sure that I have my glaze coming down to the tip before I start putting it on the plate, because a lot of times you'll get an air bubble and it'll spurt all over your plate and then you have to clean it up. All right, so I like to make sure I have this nice and ready. All right, designer liner is really like an underglaze. It is basically pigment and clay. All right, that is why it requires a clear glaze over it to make it dinnerware safe. So what I did on here is you're going to start by drawing a line for the center of your tree. Okay, that's why it's nice to have some lines. Now, what else you could do, especially if you're going to work with some kids, is if you wanted to, you could create a little cone shape, okay, as an outline. How big do you want your bottle tree? So I could do something like this. You could have your participants do it too. And then I know how far out to bring my bottle brush. Now on my first swipe, I'm going to start in the center, and I'm just going to do downward, bringing this out to my line. On this one, I didn't make lines, I just freehanded it. But I want to give you some tips and tricks on what you can do if you're going to work with people. So if you're going to teach this, okay? This one's going to be a little bigger than the other plate, but I'm also not going to put as many. All right, you know, it's your plate. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to see that also it's a lot darker against the stock of this, because that's where I'm starting my glaze. Another reason why I like to not base coat when I'm using these tips is the fact that if I had this base coated with foundations, I would have to definitely clean this tip off periodically using my little sponge, which I like to keep handy so that I can wipe off the tip periodically. And you would probably have to poke this with your little pin to get any of the glaze out of there. And if you really drag it hard against your raw bisque, the same thing can happen. You know, the bisque is pretty soft. All right, this side is a lot tighter than this side. Not a big deal. We're going to come back. So you can use any combination. I did red and orange as a tree. So there's 2 colors per tree. Starting this out on my... And sometimes it gets a little difficult. I'll take the pin, poke the little nib, So I know it's cleaned out. I can take this off, and this is where your toothpicks come in handy. Sometimes it clogs in this little plastic cap, depending on how old your bottle is. And I did have to reconstitute a couple of mine because I'd had them several years and hadn't used them recently. If you do a drop or two of water, put the lid back on, even the cap, or put your finger over it, shake it up really good. You can also take your bamboo skewer or end of a paintbrush or whatever and get down in there and stir this up if it has been sitting a while. And also with a brand new bottle, okay? That way you're getting all that glaze mixed up good. You know that it's all reconstituted, ready to roll. Put my lid back on there. Put my little metal tip so that I have a nice fine line. And on this one, I like it with the metal tip. It comes out a little too thick, in my opinion, if without it. All right, so now what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to start, and I'm just going to go straight out. So I've really kind of got it cross-hatching. You can do it as tight as you want, as loose as you want. There's going to be a visual look to it that you're going to go, not quite it. Let's add some more. So in each of my trees, I did 3 strokes across it. And yeah, since it's on bisque, it is going to kind of drag a little bit, but you know, it is what it is. I have some soothing landscape music on in the back so I could pretend that I'm also at a spa. I don't know about you guys, but I am so ready for a spa day. I'm sure each and every one of you would love it if somebody came in and rubbed your back or did a foot massage right now. It's been a busy season. Okay, now I'm skipping a little bit, which I don't want it to do. Part of that is you have to maintain even pressure with your hand. And I'm not going to lie, if you have carpal tunnel, this project might take you a while. Because you're just squeezing this little bottle. I do like this shape of the bottle better than the round, just for that reason. I find this is a lot easier to squeeze consistently than the round ones. All right, so now I have the orange first, and then the red. Put the pin back in your little nib so that it doesn't dry up. Prevents me from cussing. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. This time I want to take my orange, and I don't care if it kind of blends in with my red. You can see I'm not trying to avoid it. If it moves and blends a little bit, so be it. Wipe it off because it's getting a little bit on there. I'm going to see if there's any comments, so hold on. Hey Marlene, hey Ruth. This is a fun little project anybody can do. If you haven't planned some activities after Christmas, you can do this as a workshop or a class or a walk-in easy because it's really pretty simple. But the key is you want to do it at least 3 times, and you can see that I've got different directions going on. It's not that hard. It's just kind of planning your attack. This looks really cute on a mug, where you could do 1 tree on each side, or you could do 1 large one and 2 smaller ones. All right, so you can see how this is really filling in. And now I have this cute bottle brush tree. This one's kind of wide. So if you did 4 of them, because like I said, this one's a little on the busy side, one of the things that you want to do is create different heights, because the smaller ones look like it's farther back. So especially if you're doing a mug, you would want to do a big one and then maybe 2 small ones on the side of it. I like the color combinations on here. So we have bright blue with blue, And isn't that pretty? You have two different colors. And I did light green with dark green. So, you know, it depends on how you want to do it. If you want this lighter, I would do the light green as the stem, do the first swipe through with the light color, do the second one with the dark, and then come back with the bright green. So I would have a lighter tree. So you can vary it up. And see here, I did the light green with yellow. I was also thinking that all white trees might be kind of pretty, just doing nothing but a white designer liner. I haven't tried that yet, but it's kind of cool. Here we have yellow and orange for a fun, bright tree. Not loving the yellow and red. That reminds me too much of the Kansas City Chiefs colors, which is my hometown color, but that's okay. And then if you want to, you can come back and put a little star on the top with the yellow. So let's just play one more. Yeah, I'll do a shorter one. So what I would do, if I do 4, I'd do one here, and then one here, here, and here. So I'd have the 4. So let's come across, and I'll just pick 2 different colors. I really like this green color. I guess it's similar to sour apple, which is one of my favorites. Again, tap it down. Make sure that your glaze is down to the bottom. Squeeze it out. Now this one's fighting me a little bit, so this is where, you know, I'm going to check it and see how I'm doing. I'm going to stir it up. And, you know, I've used quite a bit out of this bottle, so it might be getting a little thick, but it's not clogging the tip, so I'm just going to go with this. And then I'm going to take the tip off, use my toothpick, run that through from the inside out. That just pushes all that plastic back, makes it a little bit easier. Put that back on. Make sure that this is open, and now let's give it a try again. Hey, Ruth. This one's gonna fight me. I don't want to waste a lot of your time. You get the picture on that, but I did want to do one more tree just so you can see how I did it. All right. So I'm going to take my light blue, kind of follow my outline. Oop, I got a wonky one. All right. Then I'm going to go angular, and this time I'm not going to draw a line. I want it to be a little bit thinner, maybe not so full. Start at the center, pull out. I do need to make it a little bit thick, longer than that. So you can see you can come back and add more in. You guys can't see it, but one of my dogs is coming up beside me and dropping her ball on my chair, hoping that I'll throw it out the door for her. The joys of working from home, huh? All right. So I'm going to make this little bottle tree a little thinner, and this is totally artist choice. You guys decide. You know, if I wanted it longer, I could just come back and fill it out a little bit further. Now I'm going to take the darker color. So the first swipe I did kind of down like your branches. Sorry for that noise, that was the dog. And this time I'm going to come straight out. Crossing over, it does kind of blend a little bit with the color underneath, not a big deal, but you can see how it's already filling in. And that's why, this is why I also keep a damp sponge so that I can keep that tip cleaned off and I don't get big goobers. I'm sure that's the technical term. So this time I'm coming in straight, so I've got a little crossing going on. Go over to my other side. And go a little bit. There we go. And just look at it and eyeball it and say, ooh, I like it wider than thinner. or I'm going to add more color. I stop with 3 swipes across it. If you want it a little more intense, you can add more color in. And this is nice as if you do have a workshop or a class and you're using a bunch of different colors. I mean, everybody can share, you know, not everybody has to be using the same light green at the same time. So you don't have to buy a bottle of each color for every person. They can swap and share. All right. So now I'm going to go back to my light color because I want my tree lighter than darker. So I only use the darker color once. And I'm just going to go out again. If you do thin it down, don't go crazy and add too much water. Seriously, do like a drop or 2 at a time and then mix it up really good. Or then you're going to have it watery if you over. You can see how it coming back that second time, it really knocks down that darker blue, but you still have the depth in there. All right, so there's an easy way of doing a bottle tree. Again, you can buy bottles and the little tips separate and do it with stroke and coat if you want. If you wanted to skip clear glazing because you really want to get this done, let's say you're going to do a kids workshop, base coat it with foundations, get your plastic tips, some bottles and the nibs, use stroke and coat, do it the same way, have them paint the back, and then that will go directly into the kiln. If you're going to use designer liner like I did, it does require a clear glaze over it for it to be dinnerware safe. Okay, happy glazing, my friends. If you have any questions, just post it on here. This is a very fun, easy project, and I always love to see what you guys do, okay? Oh, that's glaze right there. So if you do something fun with it, post it. Let me see how do you take this technique and make it your own, okay?